And greetings, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Dreamscapes. Today we have our friend Dio with us, and it's like the third time in a row I forgot to say, where in the world are you, if that's okay to say?
I live in Arizona.
Wonderful. Dio from Arizona. Great. And she's going to share her dream with us. So we were actually just talking a little bit and I wish I'd recorded it. You said you had some other very vivid dreams.
Yeah. I don't need my glasses to read. So, my freshman year of high school, a lot of crap had recently gone down in my life, and I was just trying to cope with it. And I think it kind of started to manifest itself in my dreams, because I specifically remember I was 15, went to bed, bottom bunk. I had a bunk bed, and my dream, I won't go into that one because we're talking about a different one. Mm-hmm. We can do that some other time or in this later if you'd like. But from that day on, I had the same themed nightmare every single night with different people, and they were all either my family members or people I deeply cared about. The first one featured my mom. The second one was my friends, like a group of my friends. The third one was my little brother. There was another one where it was just like all of my family members on my dad's side. So all the people I used to live with in my grandma's house. And like every single night, same thing, same scenario, different ways it was executed, different people, different endings. But it would always end in me dying and I'd wake up.
Okay.
Like it would be black and I'd just wake up. So after that, a little while ago, it just stopped out of nowhere and I was like, okay, fine. Because I eventually got to the point where I was having these nightmares so frequently, I would just avoid sleep. I would go to bed at 2 or 3 a.m., wake up at 5, go to school, and then stay up just so I wouldn't sleep. And then I started having different nightmares that always had bugs in them, and that went on for like 1 to 2 weeks, and it stopped. So the other night, when I had this one, I was like confused by it because it didn't fall into theme with any of the other ones. And every time I have a dream that's not a nightmare, it's just weird. Like, it has absolutely no meaning. It makes no sense. In one of them, my brother thought I was going to kill him for his shirt. And I was chasing him through this, like, nightclub funhouse of mirrors area with, like, shifting lights and different stairs and, like, hallways and corners, trying to explain to him, no, Garrett, I'm not going to hurt you. You're my brother. I don't care about your shirt. And eventually he called the cops, and instead of attack dogs, they had deer.
Attack deer.
And the deer were like sliding and falling all around this like little club, trying to like skirt around hallways to get at me. It wasn't happening.
That's pretty awesome. You know, I've been talking to a guy who does animations about trying to get some of these descriptions animated. It's just fantastically bizarre. That could be 5, 10, 15 seconds, like just what you said. Deer slipping all over the place in the little police helmets. And
the deer sliding around. They didn't have helmets. They had like the canine vests.
Oh, yeah. That's pretty cool. Oh man. Well, so you had this,
and it fell into the category of weird dream, but nightmare stuff that would happen in my other dreams, and I was like, why?
Yeah.
And in this dream, I also recognized places I'd been in other dreams, but in the dream, I wasn't like, oh, I've been here in other dreams. It was like, yeah, this is what the town looks like, because I used to have dreams where there was this little. This will play into it later, I didn't have a car until 3 weeks ago when I got my license. So in dreams up until recently, I would walk everywhere or ride my bike or use my rollerblades.
Okay.
Like how I do in real life. And there is this little path I would take. And if you go, it's like through the woods. And in each of my dreams, it's like places I know in real life, but they're changed just a little bit. Like they're in different locations and they look a little different and they do different things. So there's this little path that I would use to take to my secret hideout in Alaska, and in my dream, that functions as you turn right, go to school, turn left, main town, and my house. So, like, I know all these different locations, and they're starting to converge together in my dreams as, like, one town, and pretty much all of my dreams happen in this town.
Interesting.
In my dreams. It's weird.
You're kind of mapping a known landscape in your mind of places ideas, symbols you've visited before. It's very interesting, and so we can see how that plays into this current dream. So, what was the one you had most recently?
Okay, so I was in my car, which if you want a visual for it, it's a red Honda Accord 2006. She's old. Like, my mom drove this car from when I was little. I've been in this car my whole life, and now it's mine. Stickers all over it. So I was in my car, and I pull out of the elementary school that I used to go to in Tucson. So I can tell you all these locations in real life because they're in my dreams. So in Sonita Valley Elementary, but it looks different in my dreams. I pull out of the parking lot down to a little intersection. Not a four-way stop, but you know how streetlights look. If you're watching, probably. I don't know. Maybe you don't drive. But I turn left at the intersection, and I'm going down another road, and then I turn into a gas station area. It looked like a little log cabin, and now that I think about it, my boyfriend and I play Minecraft together, and it's like a, this is our show, you can't watch it without me type of thing, but you can't play the game without me type of thing. So when he was out for a weekend, unable to play, I went on a trek and built him a log cabin because he really wanted one. And when he came back, I surprised him with it, and it looked like my Minecraft log cabin, but not Minecraft, like real materials. But this was a gas station. I could see vending machines in through a little window, and the rows of snacks and stuff, and pull-offs for gas pumps. So I park in front. The pumps are forward to my left, and I'm looking through a side window before you go to the back, and then the front is over to the left. So I go out at night, and I park my car in front of the gas station. It's like a convenience store log cabin, and I start walking left towards these woods that, now that I'm awake, look like the woods that I used to go into where my secret hideout was in Alaska, but they're covered in snow. Just snow everywhere. I'm trudging through it. It's up to my calf, over my ankle. Trudging through the snow, through the woods, down a little trail. And I went mule deer hunting because I can hear other people around me in camo with their packs and their guns talking about how, oh, the hunt might get closed, dude. It's so dangerous. Everybody gets hurt every year, and people are going missing and having to end up in the hospital if they get found, or people are having accidents. The hunt might get closed. They might close the hunt. It's oh, dude, I don't want them to close the hunt. I have fun in this hunt every year. So I'm going mule deer hunting. And I am walking through the woods down this trail, and I get to a frozen over lake. So snow over everything. I can see woods on the other side if you want to cross it. But while I'm going down there, right before I hit the lake, I can see it in the distance. Maybe I'm 40 yards away. In my dream, I recognized it as a goat. But now that I'm awake, maybe it was a piebald deer. It looked like it had horns and it was small and stout, but I don't know. So I see this goat or deer come running up, trying to go past me with her two babies in tow, and someone takes a shot at it and hits it, and it dies. And I immediately think, that's clearly a mother and not a deer. You can't do that. What the hell? And I was really upset by it, but I kept walking because this is just how this hunt is. It's super crazy. You can't do anything about it. You just gotta keep going through and mind your own business and report it if you see it. So that people like that aren't allowed to come here anymore, so it's enjoyable for everyone else. So I get down to the bank, and they hit that goat deer because they were aiming for a buck, and they completely missed. So I get down to the bank, and there's a huge, fat buck on the middle of the lake. Just big boy, 8-point maybe. Super chunky, super fat. And he's standing in the middle of the lake, and I see a dude on the other side of the lake in camo raise up his gun. I didn't know what it was. All the guns looked the same, generic video game shotgun, but clearly not a shotgun, because you don't use that on deer. I see him go to take aim at this deer, and he completely misses and hits the elk standing right next to it. And as soon as he hit the elk, the side of it fell off, all the skin and fur, and there was exposed bone and meat, and you could see into its chest cavity. And it was clearly immediately wounded and injured, and he starts doing his call, screaming. And So he completely misses and hits the elk, and then he like reloads to take another shot to try and put it down and misses the elk. And then on this lake too, there were two birds that kind of looked like storks, but they were more pretty. They had like black pattern, almost like tabby cats around their eyes going down to their necks, and like little feathers flowing out. And I recognized these as endangered birds, and I was like, wow, those are super pretty. So he misses the elk trying to put it down and like shoots off this bird's head, and I'm like, oh my god. So I turn around to leave because I'm crying at how upset I am over seeing all this. So in the dream I started crying, and I turned to leave because the elk side was completely torn and exposed. There was bone and muscle. And when I turned around down the path, almost up a hill, even though that's not what it looked like I could recognize in the dream I was walking down a hill, but it wasn't so steep that I couldn't see over the hill. So when I turn back around, I can't see over this hill, and there's someone standing right next to this bird that's just been shot, and it is completely sliced down the middle. Like, you can see neck cavity and stomach open, and it's like dripping blood, super gory and horrible, and I'm crying more, and I just like shield my eyes and run past it. And even though I recognized this bird on the lake to be skinny, when I turned around, it looked more like a pelican-shaped body. So the bird changed as well. So I turn to leave, and I see the bird. I felt horrible in the dream, and I recognized, like, hunting, at least the way I see it, you don't do it because it's fun or because you want to trophy hunt. You do it, at least the way I think it should be done. Hunting is used for preservation of species and environments, because if hunting wasn't around, animals would just suffer through the winter and they would starve and die, instead of just being shot and eaten and used completely. I think it's more of a conservation thing than like a, ooh, look at me, I got this giant buck and I'm the best hunter in the world. I think it should be more of like a spare the animal the pain of going through winter and use all of its body for your own sustenance and things in your home. Mm-hmm. So I recognized in the dream, like, this isn't what hunting should be. There's just chaos and bullets are flying everywhere. People could get hit. No one's practicing hunter safety. I don't even know if they have their gun licenses. All these animals are being hit and killed for no reason, and they're innocent. They don't deserve this. They're suffering everywhere. And I was crying as I was walking out through the woods to go back to my car to go home. And I hated it. And in the dream, I thought I felt horrible for the poor animals, because hunting is about making sure you have a clean shot so you don't cause suffering and make sure you hit the right target. So, like, all the missed deer and then missing the elk again and then hitting that goat deer thing, like, was just wrong to me, completely wrong. So as I'm walking out, I'm reading this directly from Reddit. I lost my place.
It's okay. Take your time.
Okay, so I'm walking out, and a stranger, starts following me. And going like, hey, do you need help to your car? Do you need help getting out of here? Would you allow me to accompany you? This place isn't safe for a pretty young lady like you. Just really predatory, really creepy. And they kept pestering me, and I was like, no, I'm fine, thank you, I'm fine, go enjoy your day, I'm fine, thank you, please leave me alone, I'm fine. And they wouldn't stop until I said yes. And one thing I remember they said was, they wouldn't let up about following me to my car to make sure a lady like me was safe. So I remember him going, well, I just want to make sure a pretty little lady like you is safe getting back to her vehicle. So we walk, and we're having some sort of like casual conversation. I don't even remember what. And then for the rest of it, we walked in silence until I get back to the gas station thing where my car is. And I'm going, and I remember when I left my car, I had locked the doors and all the windows were rolled up. I always do that because Arizona is like a huge trafficking state, and I'm a little bit paranoid every time I go out. Like, make sure your assets and you are secure. So I remember when I left, everything was fine. So when I come back, he's saying goodbye to me, and now that I'm back, I recognize this person as my friend Alec, even though in the dream they were still a stranger and I hadn't looked at their face when we were walking through the woods. This was my friend Alec. He was still a stranger in the dream. He was not Alec in the dream. I didn't know his name. I didn't know where he's from, but he had the physique of my friend. And Alec is a huge dude. He's 6'10". He's like almost 300 pounds. He was gonna go play football for U of A, but instead decided to go to college for culinary. So just huge guy, and he's part of the drag racing scene here in Tucson. Yeah, so that's him. That's my friend. So I remember being around him in cars all the time. So maybe that's why my dream was like, hey, this is him because car. So we're back, and when we got to my car, I noticed my purse was missing, and I look over and I see him getting into his car to leave with my purse around his arm. So I go over, and I remember just taking it back from him, like, hey, dude, what the hell? And I take it back, and then I go over to my car, and I get in. All the doors are unlocked. The windows are down. My immediate thought is like, shit, someone stole from me. But I'm like, nope, just get out of there. We'll deal with it later. So I fixed all that, locked my doors, rolled up my windows, and I started driving back home. But I noticed someone was following me, so I turned off all my headlights and I drove through a neighborhood. I took like 4 right turns, make sure they're following you before you go insane. So I like turned through all this neighborhood with my lights off till I lost them, and ended up at the intersection where I turned left to go to the gas station, but now I'm going straight, and I'd lost them through the neighborhood. So, and this is the point where I remembered locations from different dreams, but in the dream I did not recognize them as dream locations. I was like, this is what this town looks like. Even though there was no correlation between these dreams other than the town that I'm in. So, so I even wrote in my post, I'm thinking it's different parts of the same town because I normally don't remember other dreams. And I've even noticed more recently, I'm starting to become a little more aware that I'm dreaming in my dreams. I'll like see things and I'll be like, oh yeah, remember that one time? But it'll be like it actually happened and not in a dream. And then I'll wake up and be like, why am I dumb? So I'm going home, and instead I end up going to college, which is weird because I don't go to college in real life. And I remember going down like a submarine kind of shaft-ish thing, and that also correlates to other dreams because when I was like little, like 8, I used to have dreams where I was in a playground that was a water park. So this playground eventually turned into a huge water park, and for some reason, like the McDonald's play place running through the tunnels and all that, in these younger dreams, I would go to run through tunnels, but to enter these tunnels, they were just these teeny tiny little holes, and I'd be like, I can't fit through that, but I get through it, like Santa Claus myself through the chimney, somehow. Mm-hmm. Like, I remember there was a specific method I had to do it. Like, you have to enter head first and not be afraid. Don't even think that you're going through this, and you'll just end up on the other side. Don't even worry about it.
Commit to something that seems impossible, and you just kind of figure it out.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I remember this kind of like submarine shaft-ish thing, except it's an open area. Like, kind of like how a bullet shell looks, but this is a building. So the top is open, and there's an open area, and then a ladder, but right in front of me is like the crank. So I enter the school through this ladder, and I drop down to the dorms, little apartment buildings, and I walk down the dorm area, and to the left is like more school. You go downstairs, and there's like a gym area with a pool and a tennis court, and running machines, treadmills and ellipticals, like a huge gym. And then if you just go right without going down the stairs, it's the cafeteria. So I go there and run into Mace Windu, who is a professor at the college. He's not Mace Windu in my dream. It's just Samuel L. Jackson in his robes, but he's a college professor. There is no lightsaber. And I'm talking to him, and I'm like, oh, hey, where's this professor? I don't even remember his name. I was like, where is this professor? I want to talk to him about something. I don't remember what it was. Yeah, I ended up at my college. I don't go to college in real life. I wanted to share something with a professor who was known for his tennis games and could have gone pro before he was injured, so like before the accident. And I'm talking to Mace Windu like, oh man, he's such a good tennis player. And I think I brought this up because I can see my professor down in like the tennis court area right next to the pools playing tennis with another student. And I was like, oh, he was so talented. He could have gone pro. He could have been in the Olympics. He could have done so well before the accident. And I recognized that this accident had something to do with his knee. I don't know why. So I go down the stairs to talk to him, and I find out that he's murdered someone through the other student he's playing games with because she's confronting him. She's like, I know what you did to so-and-so. I think it was like Sarah or Jessica or something. Like, Sarah is an ex-girlfriend of my boyfriend, and Jessica is my stepsister's name. So, I don't know. But she goes, I know what you did to so-and-so. I'm going to report you to the police. You're going to jail forever. You're never going to get away with this. And he loses it, whips out, like, a hairdryer looking thing, but it has a clear glass dome where you can see what it's sucking up. Basically a handheld vacuum in a hairdryer shape. I don't remember what he says, but he like gets her in a chokehold and puts this to her skull and starts like sucking out pieces of her skull, and it's just her skull and her hair, and you can see her brain intact under it, but it's like slowly gathering more and more, and she's screaming like, is that all you got? Is that the best you can do, you pussy? Wow! Like she's screaming, like egging him on, and then it eventually turns into screams of agony as she's dying. And as this is happening, and I'm witnessing this from across the court, so in the dream I can recognize that I'm on the other side of the gym, but it looks like I'm right there in front of them, close-up shot on this one scene. So he's like sad about it. He goes, oh, that's no fun. I like it when I can just go in there and squish the brains myself, like grab them and crush them, which he then does once she's dead. But then I go over there and I'm like, what did you just do? I'm gonna call the cops. You're going to jail. And he goes, how could you when I can tell them you did this? And he pulls out a knife and slits his own wrist, and then pulls out a pencil sharpener and a pencil out of thin air and sharpens it, and then like holds that up like the pencil is what I cut him with, which looking back makes no sense, but in the dream I'm like, ah, damn it, I'm framed. He's got me. And then I wake up.
Okay. All of that at the very end went pretty fast, but we're gonna go over it again, and I'll probably get some more clarification. I don't know if you saw me.
You were writing away.
Writing away. I got just a few pages. That's your story. Of course, my handwriting's large and screwy, and I could hold this up to the camera, and no one could read it. It's my handwriting. That is good stuff. That's some fantastic imagery. I love the weirdness of it. I really do. Like dreams.
All my dreams are really vivid. So that's what I'm talking about. Like it doesn't fall into theme with any other dream I had, but it follows the same weird pattern of what my other dreams are like, where it just makes no sense, probably has no meaning at all. It's just happening and I'm watching.
Yeah,
but
some things don't.
The gore and the murder and the bad of like all my nightmares.
Yeah, there was a lot of kind of disturbing imagery in there, and you were felt disturbed by it to be experiencing it in the dream. So that's definitely connected there.
I noticed in my dream I can physically feel things too. Like if I'm crying in a dream, I'll wake up and my throat feels tight, like I've actually been crying. Or in my nightmares that I used to have, when I would get stabbed, I'd wake up and my stomach would feel like, oh, I don't like that.
Yeah.
So in this dream too, I could feel like unsettled by everything that just happened. Like, that's not fun. Nope.
Mm-hmm. For sure. No, yeah. And that emotional response in your dream is telling you something as well. I mean, do dreams have meaning? Yes and no. It's kind of a funny thing, like to hear me say, I'm the dream interpretation guy, you know. Some things it's like everything means something. Is it relevant? Is it important? Is it going to be meaningful to everything else that happens? Some things are kind of isolated, like a random idea flows through your mind and disappears. And sometimes that's the way certain imagery is in dreams, where bloop, where'd that come from? Who knows? Doesn't connect to anything else. We leave it alone. But you never know till we go through the process, which, speaking of which, so, first I just sit quietly and listen. People give me as much information as I can. I write down as much as I can. 'Cause then I have to go back through my own notes and try and, get myself a very clear visual image. And also my process, what is it? It's like, why am I doing it this specific way? Part of it is a repetition thing for me, where it's only hearing the same information a couple of times in a row and getting real specific. Then I can start seeing where the connections are. Like if you ask me to just go, tell me what it means. I got nothing, not yet. So that's why this next, the kind of middle part is critical. Yeah. So, go ahead.
I'm a little bit of a subscriber to the idea that like dreams are alternate realities that you're entering into, which makes there's no evidence for it, but I think like if it were to be proven, yeah, that makes sense, because like all these different locations in my life are now one town from different places. Like my Arizona elementary school is close to my Alaska hideout from middle school to high school.
Yeah.
So if there is like an alternate reality, all these places in my life are now one town, which either maybe makes a little bit of sense or my brain just is like, cool.
Yeah, sometimes it's a matter of familiar icons. Once they get stuck in your mind as familiar things, your brain will return to it because it's a very good representation of something you're still referencing in your subconscious, in your thought process. It's but what you were saying, do I have any evidence that multiple universes exist and we can travel between them? No. Do I think that's entirely possible? Yes. And do I think maybe there's something about the sleeping mind that allows us to at least touch or observe those other places, those other possibilities? Yeah. I mean, who knows? Again, am I going to stake my reputation on it or say conclusively, I know for sure this is the one and only answer? No, I can't do that. But I love it. I love the theory, and then maybe we can figure it out someday. I mean, it's pretty accepted in the scientific community that there's the likelihood of multiple realities, dimensions. I
think it was proven earlier this year, like there is an alternate reality. We found it. I'm not 100% sure. I did no research on it. I just remember people freaking out like, are you fucking kidding? Everything that goes on is funny, and this is when we discover it?
Yeah. Well, it's the year for it. Let me tell you, this has been a weird year. There is an interesting thing that, like, if the universe is truly infinite, there is no end to it. That means anything that could happen must happen, if that makes sense. So there's a philosophical argument for the idea that every time an atom splits or you choose to turn left instead of turning right, there is also a reality then born where the opposite happens, and those exist in parallel until they diverge further. Yeah. I mean, that's blown my mind for years, just thinking about that kind of stuff. But I love it though. I'm like, yeah, that could be. But getting back to the specific dream imagery, let me make a little note here. So in the very beginning, the first thing you remember, you're in a car, and it is your car, the one you have now, and it's actually the car, the red Honda that you inherited from your mom? Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's my car. Same stickers and stuff on the inside, and actually, I think in the dream, there was like stuff in my passenger seat, because I normally throw my purse in the passenger seat, or if I'm driving a long way, I'll take one of my stuffed animals and like buckle them in. Mm-hmm. So I have a little friend on the drive.
So you said there was stuff on the seat. Did you remember, was there a stuffed animal, or is that where your purse was?
I think it was probably my purse. I didn't look over there. I could just recognize like, yeah, my stuff's over there.
Sure. And then later in the dream, you noticed your purse was missing. So that would be a good place you would have been able to easily see. It's not where I left it.
Yeah. Well, I remember bringing my purse with me to the woods.
Oh.
So when I back, I'm assuming he just like took it off me somehow.
At some point during the journey, it went from that walking. Okay, let's get there kind of chronologically. So you start the dream in this car, and you're pulling out of your old elementary school.
Yeah, so it's not my old elementary school like to a T, because every time in a dream when I'm there, it's just the playground area. And it always looks a little bit different. So the way it looks in real life, there's this big hallway that goes to the aftercare section. And there's area to the left for older kids, and then area to the right for little kids, and like different rooms for kids with special needs and stuff like that. Aftercare is when parents like can't come pick their kids up right after school.
Sure.
And you just hang there until 5 p.m. when they can come get you. So after that little hallway, you go down, and to the left there's a gate where you can exit the school out to the parking lot that is normally closed. They make you go out the main gate, and then there's a playground, and then you go over to the right, there's more classrooms, and then there's a sidewalk to like the big playground with the field, and then that goes over to the blacktop with the basketball hoops that leads to the rest of the campus. But in my dreams, it's always playground, and then right other playground, like one huge big trench or a sidewalk. And then it'll be playground, and that's it. Like, I can recognize the rest of the school is there, but all I can see is the walls of the classrooms. I never go out and venture to the rest of the school.
Okay.
So
at that time, did you have any sense of what you were doing there? Had you just finished doing something and you were leaving?
No, I think I just I just recognized that's where I started, like, I'm pulling away from school right now, because I remembered, like, normally I'd be taking my little secret path to get home, because it's right there, but now that I have a car, I can just drive away.
For sure, yeah.
So that's all I recognized.
Okay, that is an interesting place to start. What is your mind telling you, and just something to think about as we go, but that pings a little sense of meaning to me. There's something about the rest of the dream that follows that relates to that starting place and the idea of leaving from that starting place. So maybe, as I said, just something to meditate on as we go forward and see if we can make some connections. So you drive a little ways away, and then you make a left turn down a road. Do you remember making the choice?
I meant right turn.
Oh, okay. And you make a right turn down a road. Do you remember contemplating the choice, or it was just automatic? You're just, that's the direction you're going.
I was just like, yep, I'm going this way. Like, I'm going there, and then I pull into the gas station. I don't know why I pulled in. I just know I pulled in. And
you didn't have a sense of choosing that as your destination?
Nope.
Just that's where your mind took you.
Everything up until leaving the woods was automatic. This is what I'm doing. There was no choice. There was no thought process. It's, we're going to pull into the gas station, then we're going to go mule deer hunting. And I didn't even think, let's go mule deer hunting. I just knew, I recognized that I was walking towards the woods with other hunters and people around me, and they were having this conversation, foreshadowing, how bad this hunt was going to be.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to get into that a little bit too. But first, you said this gas station had very much the look of the Minecraft log cabin that you had built for your boyfriend when he was unable to play temporarily.
Yeah, it looked like a little log cabin. It was very cozy, very nice looking, but it was a gas station. No name, no big Circle K sign or anything, just a little area. Almost like classic trader's outpost look to it, but there were gas pumps and cars.
Okay, good deal. And that is interesting that in your dream, that's what it reminds you of, this specific thing that you made. And probably that's a good reason why it would be a strong visual image, is you spent time crafting this thing. You made it very specifically. But also there's, again, that tickles my sense of meaning too, is this is related to something you did in real life, someone you care about in real life, something you did for them as a present when they were absent. So there's a lot of those ideas in there. And then it shows up here as another turning point, so to speak. Like, you start at the school and then you go to this gas station, and these are the points on the path that then take you, say, to see what you're going to experience down the path at the river or at the frozen over lake. Again, I don't know what it means just yet, but those are the ideas to kind of be considering as we go and see what the theme, the kind of arc of the story of the dream is. And so you described seeing a vending machine, snacks, and things like this is definitely a gas station, but it's also this log cabin.
Specific, I can just recognize the shapes and stuff, and there's stuff in it.
Yeah, and none of that stuff stood out for you. It wasn't necessarily important what bags of chips were on the wall, but that there was enough visual imagery to say this is definitely a gas station. So then do you remember why you parked and went out into the woods? No. Was there any sense of making a choice at that point either?
I have no recollection of a choice made or anything. I just knew I'm gonna park, and then I parked and I pulled up and I recognized I was at a gas station, and then the next thing I know, I'm walking towards the woods, left away from my car.
Okay. And so you're going down this path, and when you're at the gas station, was there snow around, or there wasn't snow in?
There was a little bit, like, sprinkled on the roof, and
Okay.
not on the parking lot at all. Like, you step on the asphalt and it's clear. It looks melted,
Sure.
like watery, as if snow had melted, but as soon as you step off, you're crunching into snow.
Okay. And so you don't remember there being snow at the elementary school when you left?
No,
It's like the
definitely
snow
not.
begins to suggest itself at this gas station and then
Yep.
really becomes more
Prevalent,
dense
like,
down the
woods,
road. Okay.
I'm sorry if you can hear stuff in the background. I live with 4 other people.
I really can't. I mean, maybe other people can. My
Okay.
hearing's not that great. I even got these earbuds jammed in so that I'm not getting. If anyone ever goes back and watches episode 1, 2, and 3, don't do it. It's not. I mean, go ahead and do it. I mean, I feel bad for the people that I interviewed at the time because the audio was just awful. I think that first episode was I was only able to pick up the recording of him coming through the speakers of my computer being picked up by the microphone, and I did all the audio tweaking I could. And I mean, things have gotten much better now. I've got like an actual kind of professional quality mic, and I figured out I got to route the sound through the headphones. I mean, these are just basic professional things I had no idea when I started, and I got some really good advice from people out there. Thank you for your help getting me set up. You know who you are. But sorry, back to your actual story. I go off on tangents too, so
Not a problem. I do too.
right. That's probably why I could talk for 2 hours and I don't even realize it. So you're heading down this path, and you said there was this kind of foreshadowing, and what you saw was there was a bunch of hunters around, and they were describing things being chaotic or out of control or worried that it was being done wrong or poorly. How would you characterize it? What was it?
Not like worried things were gonna go wrong, but definitely like talking about how things have gone wrong in the past. The only concern I can sense was that the hunt would be closed because of how dangerous it gets every year. Because they were saying, like, dude, they might close the mule deer hunt after this year. Like, oh, no, you're kidding, right? Come on, it's not that bad. Like, yeah, because some people are dying and getting hurt, and people are missing things, and it's just bad, man. It's like, oh, dude, that'd be lame, or that'd be stupid. Kind of like, oh, dude, the football game isn't happening this year. Someone got COVID. Oh, that's dumb. We're not even close to the players.
Okay, so there wasn't actually...
There wasn't concern for safety, just that the hunt would be.
Yeah, not that they were worried they were doing it wrong, that they were interested in taking responsibility for doing it right, but that some maybe external authority would say, this is not working, this is going to be disallowed, and it would take away their fun. It's kind of the feeling you got from it. Yeah. They
weren't concerned about, at least the way I got it from them, like they weren't concerned about doing it right or being safe. They were just concerned they wouldn't be allowed to do it at all anymore. Yeah.
Interesting. And then you proceed to have that demonstrated fully, that it's not safe, that these people are like their weapons handling and whatnot is completely out of control. They're not hitting their targets. They're hitting the wrong targets. And you said it first started with what you thought might be a goat, but it might have been a piebald deer. And it had 2 little babies with it, and it was moving towards you from the water or from the shoreline?
Yeah. It was like short and stocky, plump, so looked like a goat. It probably was a goat, but when I woke up, I've been like really obsessed with piebald deer because they're just adorable and I love them. So
like
when I woke
little
up,
miniature
I was
ones,
like,
right?
Yeah, but in my dream, it was most definitely probably a goat.
Mm-hmm.
But I recognized it coming towards me, but on the right side of me as I'm walking down the path, like just trying to get past me away from what's happening because it was scared and clearly trying to protect its young. And then I hear a gunshot off to my left and see it just drop. And like the babies are like stopped, like sniffing around their mom, like what just happened. But I see that and I'm upset by it, but I just shake it off and keep walking forward because like I came here, I might as well finish it.
So there was some sense of determination to proceed at that moment? Like you just saw something like, this is not right, but I have to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then what was it you said happened next?
Do you want me to say it, or are you looking through your notes?
I am kind of looking through my notes. It was shot by the Hunters, and then you did actually respond to it, though, in your mind or out loud to the Hunters. Wait.
Just in my head, like...
Okay.
Yeah. Not like an actual thought. No coherent thought, just a gut feeling like, no, that's wrong. I kind of like to think that there's two types of thoughts, at least I have in my head. I don't know if it's for everyone, but there's this little back thought where a feeling, and you can get a sense of, I like to think of it as thoughts are just sentences appearing in the dark. So there's the stuff at the front of your mind, like, go get milk at the grocery store, and that's loud and bold. And then there's like a little grayed out, faded, like, don't forget the milk or eggs or whatever back there. So seeing the animal get shot and like its baby sniffing around it was like a back thought of like, that's not okay, but I didn't immediately recognize or acknowledge it. Yeah,
your brain didn't compose it into a coherent sentence with subject, object, predicate. Yeah, no, I think you're very right about that. And there's kind of an understanding of concept that could be wordless in your mind, and then there's putting those concepts into words and explaining them, which is what we do when we're trying to have verbal communication. And yeah, most of our inner voice or dialogue, so to speak, with ourselves is not in full coherent sentences. It's just these just kind of concepts that we innately understand. I mean, yeah, it's hard to describe. I don't have the right words for it right now, but yes, I know exactly what you mean, and it's very, very true. So you had the impression of that's not right, and you're like, yeah, this is out of control, super crazy, as I think you said, but you also felt like you could not do anything about it? Like there was nothing you could do to change what was happening around you?
Yeah, no, like it happened, move on. Because right up until I hit the shoreline of the lake, there was no coherent decision to do anything. I was just kind of along for the ride, like a passenger in my own body, searching, like looking things and processing them as they happen. But until I reached the lake and saw everything that go down and I start like crying profusely, I decide like I have to leave. I have to get out of here. This isn't okay. Okay.
Gotcha. And then that thought didn't come until there were more specific, it had reached a sum total of negative events, and you witnessed each of them in their turn. I think that the next thing you saw was the large buck, very, very solid big boy, and that a hunter tried to shoot him but missed. And that some place next to the buck was an elk, and that elk got shot in a very graphic way.
Yeah, the way I saw it was like, so just directly in front of me, there's the dude on the lake with like on the other side of the lake for me with the trees and everything. And then off to kind of the left, the leftish is this big deer with the elk. It's like they're bigger, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And from my viewpoint, the elk is behind the deer, but from that guy's viewpoint, it would obviously be closer.
Okay.
And then off to further than them were the two birds I mentioned, just kind of hanging out, that were like super pretty and gorgeous, almost like storks or swans.
Yeah.
I'm just sketching, but this is kind of what it looks like.
Okay, good deal. So actually from where you were, the hunter was somewhere else and almost shooting towards you in a way, or at least...
Yeah, like he was directly across from me, but clearly he raised his gun, pointed, and turned to shoot at the deer.
Okay. Gotcha. And then missed and hit the elk instead.
Yeah.
I think there's something in there about the nature of the animals and the escalating nature of the events. Like we could say the first The first one might have been an accident. Oh, I thought it was a deer. And you're close enough. You're like, it's clearly not a deer. That's not right. Then they're actually trying to shoot at the deer and they miss. So one is misidentification. The next one is a misapplication, a failure of technique versus just a simple mistake.
I'm not even sure it was misidentification because he knew what he was shooting for. A deer. This is a mule deer hunt. Everyone knows what deer look like.
Oh, gotcha.
Elk are not deer, clearly.
Well, I was thinking of the first one, the small, the piebald. That one, you didn't get the impression that someone may have mistaken that for a deer. You're like, that's clearly not a deer. No. They're just shooting anything out here.
No, I didn't think that was like a mistaken identity. I think that was just straight up, something's moving, shoot it. Kind
of a careless impulsivity.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I dream, I get like context almost as thoughts. I don't have to be told anything. I just know, like, so I knew that guy wanted to hit the deer but missed.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And that's I would say that's the that's how your brain's showing you this idea. That's why I'm kind of trying to reduce it to the idea of, so the first one was kind of a careless, impulsive mistake. It was the wrong thing to do, and it was like the person didn't care. They were just shooting at anything. This next one was a little more of like they were aiming at the buck and they missed. Mm-hmm. So it's like they were trying to shoot the right thing but failed to achieve their own goal, which is more of a process failure or like a failure of skill in a way. So that's a lot of what I do, is trying to express these things in different categorical terms to get them to make sense. And then there was a different hunter, and then that's the one that shot the birds.
Same guy.
Same guy. Okay. And then his so was he still aiming at the same buck?
Yeah, so same guy shoots the buck, misses, hits the elk, and then goes to put the elk out of his misery and misses again and kills one of the storks the bird.
Yeah.
This endangered bird. I didn't know what it was specifically. I just recognized it as like super pretty, elegant, amazing creature and was like super rare endangered species.
And that is interesting too, that it then becomes the next failure of application, so to speak, or skill failure has even worse consequences. It's bad enough to shoot the wrong animal. It's bad enough to shoot the wrong animal and have it obviously leave it suffering, but then to miss again and do even more damage of a more serious kind. It's almost like people who are like, they don't know their own limits and they're persistent in trying again. And, God bless them, they're trying, but they should probably quit while they're ahead and stop doing more damage. Does that kind of resonate?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that, but that's kind of what I'm getting in this scene. Just impressions. I could be completely wrong. It's when I ask if it resonates, like people have to say, yeah, that makes sense, or no, I'm not feeling it. Either way. And that's when, the sum total of all those experiences, and at this point you're just dripping in tears and you're like, I can't watch this anymore. I got to get out of here. Okay. And as you were describing the reason or your thoughts related to the idea of needing to leave, is that it's tied up in, say, your personal philosophy on conservation and hunting. And that's the thoughts that in the dream were going through your head regarding why you were crying. The source of the tears was...
The main thought definitely was one of my hunting principles, I guess. Like, you can't cause an animal to suffer. You have to make sure that you, as the person with the gun, have it sighted in properly. You have your license. That thing is paid in full. You know how to use it. You are specifically aiming for one target, and if there's even any small chance at all that you are going to miss that target and hit another living being or cause damage to the environment, you don't shoot and you wait until it's clear.
So there was a sense of a violation of like a moral code?
Yeah.
Okay.
At least of my own ethics.
Yeah. And where are we at here? So then you decide to leave. And how quickly after that decision was made and you started heading down the path did this other person show up to follow you?
So when I came down, I just stopped, like right at the bank, and then saw everything go down and immediately did a 180. There was no moving at all, just did a 180, and then I immediately saw up the path the thing, the scene. Like, the landscape had changed, so where originally if I were walking down and I turned around, I could recognize the slope but still see over the hill.
Mm-hmm.
But now, instead, the hill was like so tall I couldn't see over it at all. And that endangered bird that looked more like a stork or a swan thing was now more pelican-shaped and just sliced straight down the middle.
And this was the same bird that had been shot before?
Yes.
And it was... Go ahead.
Sorry, yeah. So, like, if I were standing in front of you, it's like someone went from my head down to my feet from the side and just went straight down. Instead of being split in two and the left and the right falls, like the front end was gone.
Okay. So it was kind of forward to back rather than down the middle or lateral versus... Anyway, I don't know. I don't know those terminology. But again, this was the same bird that had been shot. And, but maybe I'm not quite understanding in terms of the relationship. Like, you turned around and the bird was now in front of you, whereas it wasn't before?
It was. So, like, on the lake, it was in front of me, yeah, but it was on the lake and to the left, a little far ways off. Like, I would have to turn my head a little bit to focus on it clearly. But now that I've made a 180, it's like right there at the top of this path. Okay.
And that's interesting too. I'm making these little kind of carrot marks. You tried to look away. You tried to leave this scene of watching horrible things happen, things violating your personal moral code. But in turning around, the thing you tried to leave behind was in front of you, and it was worse than it was before. It was even more graphic, like something in your mind, like, you need to see this. I know you don't like it, but look at it. It's putting it literally in your path. There's something there. What did you do in response to seeing that?
I just shut my eyes super hard and just walked past it, trying to get to my car. Like, I just wanted to get out of there.
Yeah. Overwhelmed and just like, that's enough. I literally shut your eyes up, but stop. I need to stop seeing this. Did you get over the top of that hill?
I definitely should have, like, by actual real life logic, but in the dream, I didn't recognize going up a hill at all. I just remember walking straight past.
Sure.
And when I opened my eyes again, that guy was behind me, pestering me.
Okay. How did you become aware of him? Did you sense a presence before he spoke, or were you startled by him being spoken to?
There was no startling. I just, knew that someone was to my side and speaking to me, and I recognize now that when I was walking past him, there were, little crates, boxes off to the side that weren't there earlier when I was walking down this path, so that, again, indicates another change of landscape.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what do you make of that? What kind of crates, boxes were they? How would you describe it?
Nothing significant. They kind of looked like just regular little storage crates, like the stuff in the Indiana Jones big locker room of artifacts.
Top
just
men.
Those small squares, but kind of also like the honeybee hives near the border, the river down in Yuma where I used to live, where we would go catfish fishing. Someone took those little crates and turned them into honeybee hives.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, and there's always these triggers. Like one thing happens after another, and then you notice another thing that wasn't there before. Just like the hill changed into something that seemed you couldn't see beyond it, so you had to actually close your eyes to move forward. I think there's something in that too, something to meditate on. And then you do get past the hill. You get outside the area of the horrible things that were so disturbing to witness, and now you've got something following you and these crates. I don't know that they mean anything necessarily, but there's there's like not. I mean, what are crates? Crates are they're storage. There's things contained within them,
and it's still snowy. Yeah. So like I'm still completely in a snowy wood up until I get to that parking lot where the snow stops at the asphalt, and then the rest of the town doesn't have snow on it. It's just the woods and a little bit of that gas station. Yeah,
very interesting. Like going from one biome to another that quickly. Yeah. I love gaming references. I wanted to write a book once upon a time. Everything I needed to know in life, I learned from massively multiplayer online role-playing games. But somebody beat to it and wrote the book about D&D with the same title. So I'm like, it's been done. So you got this sense that this person was kind of predatory. The things they were saying made it seem like they had ulterior motives. I just want to make sure you're safe, but you didn't feel safe with this person.
Okay. Yeah, no, I've definitely in my life experienced a fair amount of situations where people come at me with false pretenses and then do things that are horrible and shouldn't happen to anybody ever, but they happen. I definitely got the sense in the stream that I went from one bad situation to another, but it was a different type of bad. Like, I have to be alert, be aware, be on my toes, keep my distance, be polite, like don't provoke him, don't aggravate him, just be polite, get away as fast as you can, as far as you can, as soon as you can, without causing a confrontation. Keep yourself first and worry about the rest later.
Absolutely. But this person, so you were doing all that. You were doing everything you could to keep yourself safe, all the proactive stuff. And this person was very persistent. And eventually there was a sense of needing to just acquiesce and say, fine, you can walk with me. How did that happen?
Yeah, it was just constant badgering. Like, I think it started off as like how are you doing today? Oh, I'm fine. How are you? I'm doing well. Do you need someone to walk you to your car? It's a little dangerous out here on this day. Like, no, I'm fine. Thank you. I can make it by myself. I appreciate the worry. Are you sure a pretty little lady like you shouldn't be walking through here by herself? I can help you. I can just walk you to your car. I just want to make sure you're safe. I want to make sure you get there okay. Like, just persistent. I'm like, okay, fine. Yeah, not a problem. We'll just get to my car and then blah, blah, blah. I don't remember what I said to be like, yeah, sure. But it eventually got to like, okay, fine, come on.
Okay, gotcha. And as you're thinking back on it now, it doesn't remind you of it reminds you of a type of experience you've had before, but nothing specific.
I do remember a little bit in the dream. Either he or I said, well, we're walking the same way anyway, so might as well. Okay,
gotcha. Yeah. And at some point you might, just realistically say, he's not going to stop and I've run out of excuses and now it's going to start sounding rude. So again, you're trying not to provoke.
Just go with it.
Yeah. Okay. This is happening. So you got all the way to your car and you had a sense in the beginning that you must have taken your purse with you, but you never
I did.
Described having it with you as you were describing the dream.
Took my purse with me because every time I leave anywhere, I take my purse with me. It's my go bag. It's my essentials. I keep wallet, phone, charger, keys, and then anything else I might need, like medication or water if it's going to be a long drive. So I always bring my purse with me. And if I'm in the car, I put my purse into the passenger seat. And as soon as I get out, I take it, put it on, put my key back on my keychain, and then I go and walk and I make sure to lock my car. So you can... I know it was this specifically.
Okay. That's a nice one.
On my side the entire time. And then when we leave and I go back to my car, I notice it's just not there anymore. And he has it over his shoulder like this going in to get into his car.
Okay. So you actually did arrive... Actually, let me back that up a little bit. In getting out of the car and heading down the path, you're like, I got my purse with me. You just know it. but there was no descriptions of managing the purse or having it play a feature in the dream up until this point where you notice it's not where it's supposed to be. He's got it.
It's kind of like a shortcut almost, because when I got out of the car, there was no grab my purse, get out, start walking. It was just I parked, I'm walking, like a little scene.
Yeah, a little cut scene. Absolutely. Yeah. And it may be interesting that the purse itself did not feature in the dream until this point for some reason. It just wasn't relevant to be a visual image, a physical sensation. It was taken for granted, who knows what, but now it's shown up again, and it's a very important object to you. It is something your go bag, like you just described how important it is. And that I think it's important in the dream as well, or that is this object's importance in the dream as well.
Because even in real life, I don't worry about it unless other people are around me. And at the riverbank, no one else was by my side, so I was fine other than I'm witnessing this horrible thing and I want to leave, I want to go. But in real life, when other people are around me, like strangers or even friends sometimes, I'll be like, my purse is right here. If I need my phone, my charger, my keys, or my knife, it's all right here and I can just reach and go. For sure.
And you don't remember... I'm sorry, I talked over you.
Sorry. When the strangers around me, my walls immediately get put up, I have to be aware and alert. So when I notice he has my stuff, I'm like, that's everything I need to keep myself safe. I need to get that back right now.
Yeah. And you don't have any experience of him taking it from you. It was this kind of magically...
Yeah, it was just yep. I'm at my car. I'm like, okay, have a nice day, bye. And then I'm going to get in, and I see him across the parking lot with my bag over his shoulder getting in. I'm like,
mm-hmm. And it turns out that in him walking you to your car, he didn't do anything to you, but maybe take the purse. That was kind of the worst thing that happened in that walk. I mean, it didn't turn out he tried to stuff you in his car or hurt you in any other way. No. And then when you went over to get it back, was there any struggle or apology? No. Or
I just remember going over and being like, hey, dude, what the hell? Give that back. And then I grabbed it before he could say anything or react. I just grabbed it and ran and got into my car.
Okay. And you had a sense that he then got into his car and pulled away, didn't chase you, didn't fight over it?
Well, I did mention someone was following me out of the parking lot. I did have the sense that it was him, but I had no proof of him.
Sure. But he didn't run physically back to your car. So maybe, he said, okay, and then maybe got in his car and tried to follow you. Fair enough. But you didn't have a sense that you specifically knew it was him. You just had this suspicion. I bet it's that guy.
Yeah. Okay,
fair enough. Which could be strong enough to say it probably was in the dream, or at least there's a reason your brain focused on the idea that it might be him. It's a reasonable suspicion.
And that I remember in the dream what he looked like when he was walking beside me in the woods, like brown afro-ish, big bushy beard, disheveled. And then when I got a clearer look at him in the parking lot, it was my friend with the beard and the thing, which is not what he actually looks like. He just had these added features onto him, and not like a fake I'm wearing a disguise thing. Like this was an actual human being. Yeah,
like his actual hair and features. Yeah, for sure. And that is interesting that it was originally someone you didn't recognize, which would add to the idea this is a stranger danger, someone.
But even in my dream, when I found that it was my friend's face, I didn't recognize that as my friend, because that wasn't my friend. That's a stranger. It just has my friend's face now.
Yeah, and when was it that you saw that it looked like your friend? Was it before or after you took the purse?
It was when we got to my car.
Okay.
Just okay, bye. That was it. And I didn't recognize it was my friend's face until after I'd woken up and been like, huh, that's weird.
Okay, so in the dream you didn't have the experience of this is... Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
There was no this is my friend in the dream at all. It was just my friend's face.
I may not, and this is where I struggle sometimes with, now we're kind of meta level and analyzing dream analysis itself. What do I do with that? If you don't really realize or connect some dots until afterwards, does it mean it isn't as relevant to the dream? Because there's a process I talk about in one of my other videos where people kind of start making sense of things on their own, and it doesn't always, and sometimes that alters the memory of the dream content. But I think there was a very real impression that this person had some qualities like this friend of yours, at least physically, their appearance, their size, maybe some features other than the hair. There was enough different about them that you could readily identify this is not them, but there was a suggestion of them in that person. So I'm wondering which direction to go with it. I mean, is this a friend you generally trust? They've been good to you?
So when I first moved up to Tucson from Yuma, I didn't have any friends, so I was on Tinder, and I matched with him on Tinder, and we were originally, like, seeing if this would work out, but after the first hangout, I was like, I'm not really feeling anything, but I'm down to be homies. So he was like, yeah, that's cool, and we would hang out. We went on a boys' trip to the Salt Lake River. It was a good time. And then, like, his cousin unadded me, and he unadded me on Snapchat, and there was just no communication, no warning, and I was really confused, and I texted him, like, hey, dude, what's up? Are we good? And he goes, oh, yeah, I moved to Washington to do some soul searching. I'm in Portland now. I'm like, oh.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah. Interesting.
But he's back now. We haven't hung out since, but he's back.
Did this dream happen before or after he came back?
After. Much after.
Interesting.
We're friendly. We don't really talk about much. I think the most importance that him being in the dream was that he's like the biggest, tallest, strongest person I know, and I was in an unsafe situation, so maybe my dream manifested like big, tall, unsafe person.
Yeah, and that's one thing I was going to say is it doesn't necessarily have to be him. It's more ideas represented by him. So a person's size, like that's the biggest guy I know. The most threatening person I could imagine is if that guy meant to do me harm because he's huge. So that would come up in your dream that way. That makes sense. That it may be nothing more than that. Sometimes I do something called rattling doorknobs. I'm like, tell me more about that. The doorknob is locked, doesn't come open, nothing in there. And then we move on, and that's okay. So you got in your car, and the first thing you remember was lock the doors, roll the windows. Actually, the first thing you remember was the windows are open and the doors unlocked. And this is so unlike me. There's did you have certain feelings at that time? I mean, I have an idea of feelings to suggest, but I don't want to tell you.
So at this point in the dream, like, there was no cutscene. I actually was able to process and get through things. So I knew that so when I got to my car too, the windows were not down, the doors were not unlocked until I went and got my purse back. So I go and grab my purse and I come back and then everything's messed up and I didn't even recognize it until I got in the car and I was sitting down. I was like, oh, okay. So I start her up real quick. I roll up all my windows. I lock my doors. I'm like, okay, let's just go home. Like, my immediate thought was, someone stole from me. Maybe there's someone in my backseat. Maybe there's someone in my trunk. Someone planted something in there. There might be a tracking device on my car now. But like so many things that could have possibly been wrong because my car had been tampered with. But I was like, let's just leave. We have to go. We can worry about it later.
Yeah, and then the words that came to my mind, which you can say whether they fit or not, is that you had this sudden sense of being under threat, that that the level of security you were comfortable with was not present. You didn't feel safe. There's something violating about this is my car, this is my space. Who touched it? Who took things from me? How did this happen? That my personal environment has been altered against my wishes or without my permission. There's something in there that seems very, very important. And that relates to other stuff. You've got hunters behaving in an unsafe manner. You've got a man following you who says he's looking out for your safety, but it doesn't feel that way. So there's kind of a little bit of a thread starting to develop around those issues. Let me start a new page here. Let's see if I can do it. Crush fingers. Oh no, fail. I failed. Oh, poor corner. I try. 7, 8.
I always find it really easy if you just start at the top and do it slow and then get it off.
Yeah, and I have a variety of success. Like every other page I tore looks pretty damn crispy, and just that last one, I think I did it too fast. Still working on my technique. Someday I will have torn 10,000 pages, and I will be a master. Where does that leave us now? I got old notes and new notes.
Then after I fix everything, I'm leaving the parking lot. And there was no, like, turning my car and backing up and turning around to leave the parking lot. I just suddenly knew that I was leaving the parking lot. So another cutscene-ish.
Another kind of jump cut. Yeah, for sure. And then it was almost immediately as you were pulling out of the parking lot that you realized there was another car behind you.
A gray car, like pretty similar looking to mine, but like sleeker, more sportsy looking, nicer-ish car, but like with an old gray paint job. Like maybe it once was shiny-ish, had that chrome look, but now it's just kind of dull and faded. So this gray car starts following me out of the parking lot, and I'm like, nope. So I turn off my headlights and I go through different turns into this neighborhood until I lose him, and I go back out into the same road that I was turning onto originally, but I'm further down right in front of the intersection.
Does anything stand out to you about that process of sneaking through the neighborhood with your lights off? Any events happen?
No, other than it looks like the neighborhood my dad lives in. Just like it's a custom neighborhood where you could just buy the lot and build your own house, but a lot of people went the same route with like the brick mortar layout, because it's like just desert. It's all dirt roads. There's no lights in the neighborhood at all. It's a very rural area.
So turning off your lights would really make sense because there's no street lights either, and you could actually lose someone in that environment. But it is interesting that, and I'm glad I asked too, because there's something perhaps of a feeling of safety related to your dad. What am I trying to say? There's something about, like, it's your dad's neighborhood, it's your dad's territory, and that can be physical, but it can also be mental. It could be advice from your father that would provide you a sense of safety if you followed it. So there's something in there, maybe. I don't know. But
I don't know about that one specifically, because my relationship with my parents has not been very good.
Fair enough. And I could be completely wrong. But yeah, it is interesting that it could be aspirational. We'll get there eventually. There's just these are the thoughts that come to my head. It's like, why that territory, and why did you successfully evade a potentially dangerous scenario through that territory? There's something.
I think just because that neighborhood in general is very much like a maze.
Okay.
I didn't have my license until 3 weeks ago, so no car, no license. So I was always depending on other people to take me places. And my dad worked late, so he couldn't take me from school. And I was really sick of taking the bus. So I'd ask my friends, like, hey, would you mind dropping me off on the way home? Because it would be like the same direction. And I'd always offer gas money. And one of my friends lived in the neighborhood with me. So if I could, I'd get a ride with him. And I remember every time my friends would come to pick me up to go to something or take me home, like we were hanging out or something, every time someone knew, the first 2 to 3 times, one of my friends was brand new to my neighborhood, I'd be like, you're going to get lost on your way out. No, I'm not. You're going to get lost on your way out.
Okay.
No, I'm fine. And then they get home and it's like, I got lost on my way out.
Gotcha.
Every time.
Well, I just realized now that I've been kind of breaking my own process as we've been going here, and I've been doing it kind of unintentionally, but like I was aware of it as I was doing it, and I just rolled with it. Usually I just go through and get all the details again, clear my mind as we've been, and then at that moment I stop and I say, before I make any suggestions, have you put anything together, having gone through the experience of detailing it again? And that usually works better. But as we've been going here, I've been starting to kind of lay out little thoughts as we go, and you can tell some of them resonate with you, and some of them, like this last one, are not at all the right thing. So I'm kind of second guessing myself now, like, man, I wish I hadn't done that.
You did aspirational, and I have, like, this might be too personal, I don't know, but for a while, since my relationship with my parents isn't good, I have been for a very long time striving to be sort of a people pleaser, at least to my parents.
Sure.
And it's not working. It's not the best. It's not going on too well. But
Gotcha.
I've always had this feeling deep down in myself, like, I just want my dad to say he's proud of me just one time. Once.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's perfectly reasonable. That's not I think it's a common human experience. We want our parents to look at what they've made and say, I did a good thing by creating that person. I made someone worthwhile, that's a very deep human desire for sure. So yeah, nothing wrong with it. And it doesn't always work out. And then you got to say, all right, how do I deal with that? Where do I look for other inspiration and validation? No, but as I was saying, the idea of not making suggestions, I don't generally do that, but I've been doing it a little as we go along. And it's good to say, get corrected on that regard. So the stronger association with that neighborhood is it is a maze. It is safety because it's a maze, because you could lose someone there because your friends would typically get lost there. So that's the stronger association. And that makes perfect sense too. As I said, rattling doorknobs, it looks like that wasn't quite the right one, but it did open an interesting conversation to parental relationship, which might have something to do with some of this other stuff too, or not. You never know. We'll see. So you did eventually lose him, and it brought you back out to that original intersection. And now you're kind of recognizing landmarks from other previous dreams. So you're back into, say, what your mind would consider familiar territory for you.
Because that same intersection is where I turned off to go to the gas station in the first place. So if I would have gone left at that intersection, I would have ended up back at my school, but instead I went straight.
Okay, good deal. So you're kind of crossing paths with yourself again, going back to a place you've been before and choosing a new path. You almost did kind of a loop.
Every time I've had the thought, I need to go home. But looking back now, I'm coming out of school, going left to go home, and stopping at that gas station, and then going through the neighborhood and going straight. So maybe I needed gas before I went home or something, but
maybe the
direction in which home was changed.
Gotcha. Yeah. Or again, the dream symbolism happened in that order because there was something about seeing that as passing by the same point again is a reference to something. It's like a physical visual landmark reference to almost doing a full loop. You took a turn and you looped around and you're back where you started. So you had an experience while you were there, but it puts you at a place where you haven't progressed through to something else, if that makes sense. That it was kind of like a diversion, and you're like, well, now I got to keep going. I got to try a different path. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And so you get to this familiar thing, which is like you call it like a submarine shaft, and by that you don't mean you mean like a man-sized tube cylinder that goes down. Okay. And there was
no drive and turn into the school. I just started going straight, and then I recognized I am on the roof of my college.
Okay. So bam, car gone, sudden scene. So you reach that transition again, that intersection, and instantly you're somewhere else. Instantly you're in a new visual setting. The car's gone, and now you're at another entrance. You're at the beginning of a new experience, and it's this academic experience, or at least referencing your school that you don't go to, which may be a relevant part of why you're having imagery surrounding that. Like there's something maybe you think you can find there. That entrance is fascinating. That kind of submarine entrance thing.
Yeah. My stepdad goes to college, but I do not.
Okay.
I've been to his college, U of A. He gets very upset when I mistake it as ASU.
Okay. That's the wrong school. No, say it right. And so you get down to the bottom of this ladder, and you can see there's two paths, and there's the kind of the gym, tennis court area, and then the cafeteria. And you go to the cafeteria first, and that's where you meet the Mace Windu character. Right? Sam Jackson in his robes. That's a very iconic thing.
Mace Windu. Yeah, so this is what the entrance kind of looked like.
Yeah.
With that little submarine thing, and then the ladder going down.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. That's very interesting. Why that image? I don't know. There's a lot of potential reasons. I mean, it wasn't above ground, so to speak. It's like underground-ish. Or at least you said you were on the roof.
Yeah, I'm on the roof, and then that's the only way to get down. So roof access, I guess.
Sure. Yeah. And there's this very narrow, one person at a time. It wasn't like you were walking through a wide open, giant archway into a grand hall. It's like, here's a little narrow tube and you got to shimmy down this ladder. That's interesting. I don't know what.
And that drops directly into student housing, like dorms.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I walk down and cafeteria, little terrace area, stairs right in front of me. You go down, exercise, big gym place.
Yeah. And then you were there to, okay. So you went to, did you have a sense of why you went to the cafeteria at that time?
No clue. So I wasn't in the cafeteria. Like, it was
Gotcha.
kind of a intermediate-ish area.
Okay.
So you coming straight out of the hallway, if I went right, I would have been able to go to the cafeteria, which I recognized in my dream. Like, the cafeteria is that way, but looking down, it was just completely dark. Like,
Okay.
there was no light past a certain point, but I knew the cafeteria was over that way.
Okay.
And if you went left, there's like a little terrace where you could overlook onto the gym, and then the stairs were right in front of me behind Mace Windu.
Gotcha. So you actually met him kind of in that area, transitional area.
Yeah, Mace Windu was only there because I've been watching a lot of Star Wars recently.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And there's probably some feeling you had about that character at the time that's like, this is a person you would expect to get this information from, in a way?
Maybe. Only thing I can, like, correlate that to in real life is my boyfriend is a teacher sometimes at a local elementary school.
Sure.
He teaches in the same classroom as his mom. They're both teachers. She got an Amazon Alexa for the classroom recently, and I informed her that you can use Samuel L. Jackson as the voice instead of Alexa.
Oh my goodness.
So I went, hey Alexa, can Samuel L. Jackson tell me a joke? And then it went through the whole promotion. Yeah. That's the only thing I did.
That's pretty funny. That is. Yeah. And sometimes, how did you feel in the dream when you met that person in that appearance? Was it a positive, happy feeling of like you as opposed to say, you know, sometimes you look at some people and you just feel that's unpleasant. I'm scared. And some people you look at and like, I'm so happy to see you. I'm glad you're the one talking to me.
There was no like, oh wow, hi, because in my dream he wasn't Samuel L. Jackson.
Sure.
Or maybe he was my professor. So it's like, oh hey, do you know where so and so is? I want to tell him something, and I don't remember what it was. I think it had something to do with science because I think maybe he was the science professor.
Okay.
But Mace Windu,
the one you were looking for,
probably like my English teacher.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know what to make of that. Yeah, that's starting to get like levels. I don't know. Well, we could sit on it for a minute, come back around a bit. There may not be anything there. Sometimes images really are just random, or we're never going to figure it out. So you ask him, and he says, "Yeah, he's over there. He knows exactly where this other person is." That.
So, yeah, down in the tennis court. And then we're talking about like, oh yeah, he's playing tennis. He could have gone pro if it weren't for the incident or the accident.
Sure, and this was some specific injury to that other teacher. To that other professor that limited their ability to have a certain kind of life they might have preferred. There's something in that idea too. And then when you arrive down there, he's in a match with
the other student.
With another student, yeah. And this student is antagonizing him in a way of by revealing or making accusatory statements. I know what you did. And
yeah, so like as they're playing, she's saying like, I know what you did to so-and-so. I know you killed her. I saw the body. And like either before or when she said that, I got a flash of like a girl in a basement, throat slit open, clothes like strewn about in the corner, like bloody. And then it went back to, I'm going to report you to the police. You're going to jail for a long time. And then he goes, no, I'm not. Pulls out the vacuum thing.
Yeah.
Have you watched Despicable Me?
But the first one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It looked like the villain's squid launcher minus the squid, and it was just a vacuum.
Yeah, and that is interesting. So you've got this dynamic of professors, knowledgeable people. They're supposed to be guides, caretakers, teachers, passing along wisdom. But there's a competition, student and master, so to speak. And not just that, there's a accusation, students making accusations, and the professor's actually guilty. But this is also someone who is flawed in other ways, denied their preferred destiny, maybe angry about that, to the point of also doing horrible things to other people, of like, this is a messed up person, that like physically and emotionally. And when they're caught with the accusation, rather than, just continue to deny, they go on the attack. And the attack is a manner of vacuuming out brain, which to me suggests, what happens if your brain is damaged? You're less intellectually capable. So taking the brain from someone, destroying their ability to think or remember, harming. Go ahead.
In the dream, when I walked down, it wasn't like a competition. It was just a casual practice match. Like,
gotcha.
They're hanging out, having a good time, and then she throws out, like, I know what you did. And then he goes to kill her, and then he makes that comment, like, oh, man, I like when I can squish the brains myself instead of, like, blah, blah, blah. Like, he was lamented at the fact he couldn't do that until he sucked out her skull, which suggested to me this is something he'd done multiple times before.
Yeah.
But the girl accusing him only knew about that one girl.
Gotcha. It's like, I'm going to make this accusation. Oh, you're right. Like, now I'm going to do it to you.
In my dream, I recognized my teacher is a serial killer.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And then not just to say this broken person who was living a lie and in a position of authority, but that when caught would lash out aggressively, take that out on the person making the accusation, and in a way that affects the mind, specifically the mind, and to be drawing this kind of a sick pleasure from physically doing it themselves. I want to get my hands on the Play-Doh type of thing. The malicious glee from this mental destruction. I think there's something there. I don't know if that's resonating with you at all from past experiences or other people or concerns about that kind of stuff.
Everything that has been suggested so far just makes me see things in myself that I've had thoughts of before.
Sure.
Like my issues with my parents, or trusting myself with my own thoughts and feelings, or the fact that I'm not in college right now. Like, a main focus for me this year has been, like, I was supposed to be a certified welder after I graduated high school. I was supposed to have my certifications, my license. I was supposed to be able to, like, get a really good paying job and move out and live on my own and be self-sufficient and independent and, like, have everything good going for me. And then the pandemic hit and everything just got screwed. And now I'm going with my last resort option, which is to join the Navy.
Oh, so this dream also happened after you made that decision?
Yeah, this dream happened a couple weeks ago, and that decision happened, like, as soon as COVID hit, and I knew I wasn't getting my certs.
Gotcha.
And I only have one thing standing in the way of me before I can go and go up to MEPS and get everything done. When you mentioned going around just to end up at the same spot, like, yeah, I keep doing all this crap, and there's always something in the way stopping me from getting where I need or want to be.
Sure. Yeah, no. And in terms of the brain sucking thing, I use that as just a shorthand reference, but there's some pop culture understanding of psychologists and psychiatry in general as messing with people's heads rather than trying to open it up in a positive way and help people understand themselves. So I'm not accusing you of anything in that regard of having the wrong idea, but you could be aware of that, of like, so if I go see this person and they don't handle my brain gently, they're gonna hurt me. So you would have this fear that your brain would be handled poorly by this professional. That's kind of what came to my mind. Yeah. And it's a legitimate fear, is like this, because it's coin toss in some ways. I mean, there's a 50-50 chance that they're going to find nothing wrong, or they might decide we're not going to take a chance. And that would have some very serious consequences for your life opportunities and choices. Yeah. You're in kind of a holding pattern, and you kind of mentioned that too, with that looping around to end back in the same place or not having made any progress. All these unpleasant experiences.
And like a different path thing, I had to go to my mom and be like, does Navy Federal do anything at all? Not Navy Federal, that's my bank. Does TRICARE do anything at all for, like, mental health things that I can go through the website where I'm covered under the insurance for these people, so I can just see them instead, because this one isn't working. So she sent me a list, and we looked through it, and all of them either aren't taking new patients. The newest available appointment is until like August of next year. Just all this crap, like none of them have worked.
Yeah, it's a huge frustration. So that would be maybe one part of it. And then what else? You know, I as we were going along, I kept saying, well, think about that, or put let that meditate, or what kind of stood out to you in terms of things that seemed the most relevant, even if you don't know exactly what to make of it?
In the very beginning, when you said leaving the school to go to somewhere else might be like a transitional, leaving one place in your life to another, that again made me think, like, I just graduated high school and I'm expected to know so much. I don't even know how taxes work, and I could go to jail for like a felony if I don't figure it out quick. Yeah,
that's true. So where did that take you from that school? So you're just leaving school, but not just any school. It's like your old elementary school. So it's even a place that when you went there before, it was more of a familiar, comfortable, you were happy there type of place.
That definitely hits, because I felt I've never had like a home growing up, because I'm a military kid. I don't get a say in where I go, when I go, how I go. I just go. Yeah. So moving away from Tucson for the first time was really hard for me, because I moved out after 3rd grade, and I had my best friends, Ethan and Caleb, and my other friend Alex. Like, these were my buddies. We were tight. And I remember when we were leaving, when I was moving, because it's a year-round school type thing. This was the end of 3rd grade. I'm at the door out of my classroom. My mom's waiting, like, we gotta go, honey. And, like, I'm saying goodbye to all my friends. And Ethan, like, grabs me by my shirt and goes, don't you ever forget about me. I want you to promise me you're never going to forget about me. And I'm like, I promise I'm not going to forget about you. He goes, no, don't start crying, because if you start crying, I'm going to start crying. And then he starts crying, and I start crying. And Caleb starts crying, and Alex is crying. It's just a big mess of crying children. And then I moved to Washington, and I haven't seen them since. I was born in Kansas, and then I moved to Anchorage, Alaska for 2 years, where my brother was born.
So you really had a tree fort in Alaska.
I went down to Yuma for 1 year in kindergarten. Then I went up to Tucson up until 3rd grade. Then it was Port Orchard, Washington for half a year. Then back to Yuma for half a year. And then Yelm, Washington for a year. And then I lived in Eagle River, Alaska, which is 40 minutes away from Anchorage, from middle school to my freshman year. And I had to end the year early because I had to move. And then I went down to Yuma and spent the rest of my high school experience, and now I'm here in Tucson.
Yeah. Wow. And all of that from thinking back to that elementary school experience where that's like the last bit of normalcy that you had in your life for a long time. Yeah. And then everything just got chaotic.
I kind of feel like I was robbed of a childhood, because, like, divorced parents on top of being a military kid, I didn't get summer with my friends. I got go to dad's house and get yelled at for playing on your computer, even though you don't have any friends here.
Yeah.
Or I got go to mom's house and sit there bored all summer because it's like a new place and you don't know anybody. Like, same thing. Just, I didn't get a summer with my friends. I didn't get any breaks to spend with my friends or big, nice family gatherings. It was always go visit the other parent.
Yeah. So the world became, in a lot of ways, a more unstable, out of control looking, feeling, dangerous place with this lack of, consistency and stability of moving around so much. And there might be something there with that path into the woods. You even leave the elementary school, and your last stop is another kind of comfortable, familiar thing, this log cabin you built for your boyfriend in Minecraft. And then you're off into the real wilderness, and there's a lot of people around you that they're not there for your sake. They're not there looking out for you. They're actually there doing dangerous things that could hurt you. And they're doing dangerous things that you see hurt other things around you in some pretty disastrous ways. And and maybe this was your brain's way or just my way of understanding the different ways that people can do dangerous things is out of careless impulsivity, out of what we'd say hubris. They think they're good at something and they're not, and they fuck it up and it has horrible consequences. And wow, where am I going with that?
So
no, go
actually,
ahead.
when you mentioned the log cabin gas station that I recognized as a safe and comfortable place, when you first mentioned that, that really like resonated, I guess, because
Sure.
I've only been dating this man for a month, and he has very quickly become like my whole life. It's very strange because I'm a very guarded person.
You let
All
him
of my
in.
past relationships have ended very poorly. Every single one. I'm not even kidding. And it's like a super red flag when someone says, "All my exes are crazy." Not all my exes are crazy. All my exes were really sucky, and one of them was absolutely insane.
Gotcha.
So all of my relationships up until this point have sucked super bad. And there's been points where I'm with him and I'm like, when are you going to start being mean to me? What? You're tricking me right now. And then I have to stop and recognize, like, not everyone's horrible. You got to chill out, bud.
Yeah.
So
that's tough too, because there's always that potential of, someone's not showing me their true colors yet, and when's it going to flip? That's a real concern.
And even his family is like great to me. They have like accepted me into their little area, their tribe, and I feel like more at home there than I do anywhere else I've ever lived.
Yeah.
I really feel safe and comfortable with these people, and it's weird because I'm so used to waiting for the other shoe to drop that I have to remind myself, like, it's okay to be okay. You don't have to be worried all the time.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. And it probably makes you feel a little like you want to work extra hard to make sure you're doing your part, that you're, if he's good and good for you, that you want to live up to that expectation. And that's probably a lot of pressure too. Like, how do I break old habits like being mistrustful or keeping my guard up too high with this person that I really should let in, but it feels awkward and scary to let him in? All of that.
It's easy enough to let him in because he also kind of does a little bit what you do, where he reads into me as a person, not my dreams.
Sure.
And tells me what's up. What's hard is me, myself, having to accept that these things have happened and that I have to work through them and get over it. So when you mentioned, like, I'm trying to turn away from all this bad stuff and then I turn and it's right in front of me, kind of resonated as well, because there's like so much crap that I could go through in my past that just I had to bury and get over very quickly because a new problem would arise quickly. I had to basically become an adult and be the emotional caretaker of my entire family when I was 9.
Wow, yeah.
Which I think is also part of the reason I had those nightmares in high school in the first place, because it was all of those repressed, backed up feelings finally expressing themselves, like, you have to take care of this, and I was too young to recognize it, or even like too underdeveloped to take care of it at the time. So again, I just started not sleeping so I could avoid dreaming at all, so I could avoid that situation. And now that I'm an adult and I've moved out of my bad home situation and I have control over my interactions with people who have hurt me in the past, and like I have more control over my situation, it's like I finally have time to process through all of this stuff that's been backed up in my life. And it's hard because it's like, I'm fine. I'm a well-ish rounded person. I'm a kid still. I'm not exactly sure what's going on all the time, but I'm doing my best. I'm working through it.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I like to say to people is you have to integrate the experience into who you are today. And again, this is not counseling. This is not therapy. Please see a professional. But the basic concept is, if you segregate it and lock it away in a box and never think about it, it doesn't mean it doesn't affect you. It just means you don't understand it and you don't know what to do with it, and it can still affect you. You got to kind of, in the right circumstance, open the box and say, hello, little past damaged me. You're a part of me too. And let's figure out what to do with that. And that might be part of what the dream is showing you through this metaphor of the hunting, of the dangerous world and all these people that are impulsively stupid and possibly malicious and just unskilled in their overconfidence, doing damage left and right. And that affected you and it hurt you emotionally, and you had the tears, and yeah, I think that last bit of like, you've got this long hill to climb, and in order to get there, you're going to have to see what you don't want to see. You're going to have to just face it. And it's going to be unpleasant, and you'll probably cry, and then you'll come out the other side of it. And it is interesting that immediately after that, in your mind, you've got this experience of, well, you've gone past opening that door, and now you got this experience of an offer of safety that feels like a threat, and ended up being,
because he stole my purse.
Exactly. And at the end of it, the worst thing that happened was he took your security blanket, in a way, your sense of security away from you, but you went and took it back. You said, no, that's not happening. You did everything you could to keep yourself safe on the journey to the car. So you were in control of that, expressing self-control or
preservation.
Yeah, self-preservation. I'm thinking it's this sense of confidence in your own ability to keep you safe, even though he got the best of you a little bit. There was a little trickiness, but you caught on in time to get your stuff, and you were able to do the next step, which was to escape from the scenario, get your security reestablished, windows up, doors locked. I'm out of here. And even though the danger followed you, you were able to lose it. That's making me wonder if there's the first part of this dream is confront your past, look at all this bad stuff that happened to you, and the second half, or at least the middle part of losing the threat in the maze, is the other half of your mind that says, yeah, but can't I just forget about it? Can't I just lose it? Can't I just ditch this responsibility in the dark? And I'm not sure that's the right interpretation. There's a lot of
definitely makes sense, because I tend to do that a lot, where I'll have like a bad day, bad feelings, bad thoughts, and I'll just like ignore it for the time being. I tend to just, it's been my defense mechanism for so long to just ignore it, put it behind me, don't worry about it, you have more to do, that now that I am settled, it's a bit weird. So when things do pop up that make me upset, I have to remind myself, can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Just work through it.
And there's two ways of looking at that, and I had to get my own head straight on it. One of them is exactly as I said, the dream's telling you in the beginning, look at all this stuff, and then there's that reactive desire to escape, and you do. But there's also, and this is where people go, like they look at psychologists and they say, is this wrong or is this wrong? And the doctor says, it depends. That's true. And so there's contradictory stuff. It's also healthy and normal to say, I looked at this stuff and I dealt with it, and I had as much of an experience I could understanding it, and now I am going to put it down on purpose and walk away knowing I'm going to come back to it. It's less of a running away and more of a, I'm going to take a break, and then I'll get back to that stuff eventually. And sometimes you have to distance yourself from it in your mind, in your experience, to get distance for perspective, to be able to look back on it, but also just to put it down, because you can't live in trauma all the time. You got to do fun stuff. You got to focus on the positive. You got to do the shit work when you have to, and then go sit on the beach for a while and soak in the sunshine. So I don't want it to look like, don't run away from your problems ever. It's like, yeah, sometimes it's okay to put them down, as long as you plan on coming back.
Psychiatrist, even though I know probably that won't happen, but my outlook on life is definitely pessimistic realism.
Sure.
Instead of optimistic realism, like, oh, I could maybe find a penny on the sidewalk today when I'm walking out. It's like, I might witness a car crash.
Sure. And Murphy's Law type of thing. I mean, if it can go wrong, it probably will.
Actually did witness like someone either have a stroke or die on the way out of my hospital the other day.
Wow.
So that was fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Someone collapsed, and then you don't know what happened to them. And it's like, whoa.
It wasn't even like, I just saw them sprawled out on the sidewalk front of one of the benches where you wait for the buses, and there was an ambulance and a dude, I think he had a defibrillator, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Little machine thing.
Yeah,
and that was before I had this most recent dream, so maybe that plays into it too.
Wow. Yeah, some people are on their way to the hospital because they don't feel so good, and then maybe they don't make it past the front door.
Yeah, I think this dude was like waiting, because it's not like a big medical hospital. It's like get your diagnosis, maybe do a couple labs, and then we refer you to someone who can do your surgery. I
Sure.
think this dude was waiting for the bus home, and then something happened.
Yeah. Very, very well could have been. It could have been discharged. You're A-okay, and then they have a complication outside. Who knows? I mean, yeah, that could happen to anyone. You also can't live your life constantly worried about that, because if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Number one, you can't stop it, but number two, it's just a miserable way to live. It's like that's one thing you can turn off sometimes, with varying degrees of success. Yeah. So it seems like a lot of this stuff that you've been, the imagery in your dream, and then go into the school place. And that's related maybe to the idea that, you had your school plans frustrated. And so you're choosing a different career path, but in order to get to that path, you've got this potential roadblock of the mental health stuff to just navigate.
Yep.
Yeah. And again, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I'm definitely have a backup plan for your backup plan for your backup plan.
Yeah.
Person. So if I do get screwed over, like, yeah, you're not mentally fit, then so I could go the easy route right now and just accept my mom's GI Bill and go to college and get my certs, but because of the way she has treated me in the past, I cannot fully trust that I can take that GI Bill without her going, I did this for you, now you have to do this for me, or accept this bad behavior from me.
Gotcha.
So I've decided to just earn my own GI Bill and do it the hard way, as my dad has said,
Sure.
and just trudge through and do it on my own so that I can be 100% assured that I have not been harmed or harmed others in the process of me getting to where I want to be in life.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's something, I mean, I think both methods are valid. You could say rely on a family member that hasn't always been reliable themselves, and, or self-determined, choose your own path, even if it's, I think they both have their own struggles is what I'm trying to say. There's tolerating the relationship issues on one end, and there's dealing with the other physical and procedural difficulties on the other end. And so yeah, I could see one being, more appealing than the other, depending on how you look at it.
I'm just trying to go for 2 to 4 years of service and then go to college or tech school on my own. Plus, I like to joke that, like, by the time I get out of the military, I'll be old enough to do all the illegal, fun college, high school stuff without it being illegal.
That's true. Yeah. And there
no underaging for me.
Well, there's actually some exceptions in the military. Like, I think if you're on certain bases, like drinking age is 18 or something. I don't know. Maybe.
If you get shipped out to a place and whoever is in charge is like, yeah, all right, go ahead, then it's allowed in other countries.
Yeah.
As it stands, no.
For sure. Well, does anything else stand out to you, like specific things we hit on, or areas I put a little carrot and said, let's come back to that?
Only thing really is that the cafeteria hallway was completely blacked out. I couldn't see the cafeteria because for a long time through my mental health journey, I imagined different paths I can take in life as just this big dirt road that forks off into different areas, but each one always ended in this huge, dark, black wall that I couldn't see past because that was the end.
Interesting.
That was it. And eventually when I got to a point where I was doing better mentally, I could finally see, like, not only more options, but further down the road until they eventually tapered off into the distance instead of just this big black stopping point. So I think it's interesting that my dream decided to be like, hey, the cafeteria doesn't exist.
Yeah.
With the same imagery I used to mark the end of my own journey.
Yeah, I wonder what that, I wonder why your mind would use that old symbol to closing a pathway of, like, this is not the direction you're supposed to go. This is just a symbol of
don't go here.
Yeah, but not in like a you're forbidden, but like there's nothing useful there. You're not going to find what you're looking for in that area. Might be what it is, because even some of the same dream symbols, imagery can come back in other dreams and represent something different but related. And it's like your brain kind of picks and chooses different. Remember when this thing felt like that? Yeah, well, this thing feels kind of like that, but only in this way. That's a bad explanation, but I think you kind of.
I understood it completely.
Yeah. It's very weird, these things. It'll take if something has 8 characteristics, one of them will pop up in another dream, but none of the others apply. That's something I have definitely noticed working with some other people.
Is there any carrots you have unanswered?
Yeah, I was gonna just look back at that real quickly here. I suppose just the idea, just to emphasize it one more time, is that the biggest problem you had with the animals being killed in the beginning section was the violation of that moral code. You seem to, I think that speaks very strongly to your internal sense of ethics. You're very determined to wanting to do the right thing for yourself and in your relationships with other people.
I definitely try. I know I don't hit the mark every single time, but I definitely do my best in all my daily activities to be a person who is able to be relied on and depended on. And I actually, right before I started this interview, I noticed on my calendar I had work today, and I had no idea.
Do you have to go like right away?
No, because work is at 5 a.m. and it ends at 10 a.m. So, yay.
Oh.
And normally they call me to tell me, like, hey, you were supposed to come in today. They did not call me, so.
They must not need you. You're probably fine. I mean, it's too late either way, right? Shit.
Honestly, they don't be enough to care.
Fair enough. No, I get that too. It's honestly, I would love to do this for my day job. Never have to leave my house again. I'm really a hermit. I would live in a cave in the mountains if I could get away with it.
Work from home job, I'd take it in an instant.
For sure.
That'd be so nice.
Yeah. Well, the reason I came back around to that is because a lot of this stuff was looking at past negative experiences, negative emotions, fears, worries, doubts about being competent or success or all these other, can you trust people? Are you safe? And I wanted to, at the very end of it, kind of wrap back around to something positive, which is this, the fact that you found the harm being done, not just gross, but morally wrong. Like, this is not acceptable. This violates what I think is important. And that is what brought you to tears. This sense that other people were doing bad things and you didn't like it. And I thought that was very positive about yourself.
I also think it's not very important, but indicative that the things being harmed were animals. Cause I've always been like a huge animal activist, I guess. Not with PETA at all, because they're horrible. But like, when I was younger, when I was like super little, there was a show called Pit Boss or Pitbull Rescue. I don't even remember.
Oh, yeah, I remember those shows. Yeah.
Yeah, it was all run by people with dwarfism, and they would go rescue pit bulls. And Shorty, the main guy, had like his big dog Hercules and all this jazz, and he was advocating for why pit bulls aren't a vicious breed. And I actually wrote a letter to them.
Aw.
I wanted to grow up and go work for them.
Did you get a response? Did they write back?
I did not.
Oh, that's too bad. Yeah.
Get a response. But like my whole life, I get like angry and sad when people do horrible things to animals, because they don't know what's going on. They're innocent. They're living in their own little bubble, trying to get through life. They're not even aware of their own mortality.
Yeah. That gives a human.
They are the purest form of innocence. For
sure. And that gives humans that extra layer of responsibility. I mean, we know we're the only creatures on the planet that can do real evil. Like, because evil is a choice to, I know this will hurt, this will harm, this will destroy, this will damage another person. I know that before I do it, and you have that choice. I'm going to do it anyway. That's evil in my understanding. Is that almost a desire to do harm for pure malicious satisfaction.
What is the point?
Yeah, and it's terrible.
I have that outlook on other things too, because my boyfriend has also had bad past experiences, and sometimes he's like, I don't know, I'm afraid you're going to find out you're too good for me and leave me, or
he says that to you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
he's
sweet.
Like, you might cheat on me, and I know it's stupid, and I'm like, honey, I'm not my mother. And two, it doesn't even make sense in my brain as to why you would cheat on someone. I genuinely don't understand it. Like, I get breakups are hard, And the only reason I see is that you're avoiding breaking up with someone because it's too hard for you to deal with. But
Yeah.
if that's what it is, then you're too immature to be in a relationship in the first place.
It's true. Yeah. Some
And
people
if
are
you're
opportunistic
cheating,
and they're not connected enough to feel like the relationship's worthy of protecting, preserving, maintaining.
if you're cheating to cheat just because you want to, then you suck.
Yeah.
But also, I guess a rumor I heard about Stephen Hawking, he cheated on his wife.
Right?
Yeah, I had
I did
no
hear
idea.
that too.
And it wasn't like my wife was a good, like, he genuinely just didn't understand, at least the way it was described to me, like, why cheating was bad. He didn't get it. He thought, like, it was just sex and it was meaningless, and it didn't even matter to him. And his wife was like, no, that's pretty messed up, my guy.
Yeah. Yeah. And it can be. I mean, it's that violation of trust. It's like an agreement between two people. We are together, no one else, right? Oh, sure. And then that gets broken. There's another way of looking at it, which is some people have, polyamorous open relationships. If that's your agreement from the beginning, there's no cheating.
That's a consented thing.
And everyone's on board. You know it. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, I think we covered some pretty good ground. How do you feel about the dream itself and some of the understandings we've suggested?
I definitely feel it's less random now. Because my past dreams where they all had a theme, it eventually happened so much I could figure out why it was happening to some extent. Yeah. And I actually posted the very first one I had when I was 15 on Reddit, if you would like to go look at that. Yeah, because this is the first one I've had in a long time. I haven't had nightmares in so long. Every dream I've had was, like, random and made no sense for no reason. Like, another recent one I was hanging out with my boyfriend, and this was before I got my license, but I was hanging out with my boyfriend, and we were going to his house, but in his car was his brother, and then I was taking my own car, and we were following the same path to get to his house, and I stopped at the gas station real quick, and I was like, oh, I'll meet you there. Love you, honey. And then instead of going to turn to his house, I just go straight, and I end up in a church parking lot, and they're watching a movie on a projector, and I think the movie was Shrek because the entire church was themed to look like Shrek. Like, there was a giant Gingy cutout over the church, and, like, I go inside, and there's this priest rabbi dude who kind of looks like Jack Black mixed with Jonah Hill, just like this big portly man with a huge afro and a big bushy beard, and he looks like Shrek. He's dressed like Shrek. And then he says one specific word to me. It started with an X, and I recognized it in the dream as a holy word. I don't remember what it was, but he says that to me, and then suddenly he's gone.
Interesting.
And that was just random. And, like, the deer piece. Just random dreams that make no sense. And then this most recent one happened where it was random, but it had themes of, like, my past nightmares. And I was like, oh, guess I'll write about that. That was odd.
Yeah, for sure. And then you may have some more that have similar connections, because this is my theory of dreams, is that they're definitely almost always related to hopes and fears. Are we want this to happen, or we're afraid this might happen. I want to be good enough. I'm not good enough. I want that job. I might not get the job. I want relationships to work. I want to stop hurting from my past. I want to understand it better. A lot of this type of stuff. So if you can kind of figure out what the images mean, then it's like, this is what's on your mind now. This is what was processing in the background while you're unconscious. When people say, I don't know, let me sleep on it. Let them sleep on it. That's literally, sleeping on it is one of the best ways people figure out how they feel about something. I'm a big believer in that. Just even if you just have to take a nap, maybe that you wake up with some inspiration.
There's a thing I saw a while ago that's like relationship advice, where it's like, never go to bed angry at your partner. That's stupid. Don't do that. If you think the argument's being drawn out and no one's making any headway, just go to bed, because being angry and tired makes you cranky, and it'll just make the situation worse, and you might wake up and realize that was a stupid argument to have.
Yeah, some people get really stuck in their emotional, say, defensiveness. People get stubborn and they know it. And sometimes it happens to me too, where I'm like, no, I wanted my little inner 2-year-old because I won't admit that. I didn't do that. That's not what I really think or feel. And I'm like, if I give it some time, I get out of that stubbornness. And I'm like, okay, the feeling's different. Now I can express myself differently. I can admit something, and it's, a different. Yeah, taking a break sometimes. Sometimes you have to leave your troubles behind in that maze, and just with the idea of coming back around to fix it again another time when the time is right. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. No, I mean, that's just about all I had. I don't have to keep you here forever, right. Unless there was more you wanted to talk about. I'm happy to do so, but I think we covered some pretty good ground.
Yeah, everything's good on my end. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And we'll, if you hang out for a minute, we'll talk just a little bit afterwards. And yeah, I'll wrap it up and say to everyone watching, thanks for joining us for another episode of Dreamscapes. Please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. I'd love to do this for a day job. Thanks again to Dio for joining us. Yes. And thanks for listening.